Want to record this and broadcast it to our Facebook group or to our YouTube channel, that would be really helpful. And I want to share this with all sorts of people outside the USF ecosystem. So that'll be fun.
We welcome Sonny and Maryann Bishop, the founders of the Rosebud Continuum. They have a passion for wildlife and nature, which led them to begin the Rosebud Continuum as a way to bring indigenous knowledge to new technology and help restore the lost connections of the world in which we exist. As a part of the Patel College of Global Sustainability's unique partnership with the Rosebud Continuum Sustainability Education Center, we welcome Sonny and Maryann Bishop.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know what's up here, but we'll start in a minute. All right. First off, I'm Maryann. This is Sonny. I just want to let you know that this is not what I do. Public speaking is kind of out of my wheelhouse, so bear with me today. When I told people how nervous I was, they're like, well, make everybody laugh to start with. And I'm like, I really suck at jokes, but I can make people laugh at me. So how many people in here know the Beverly Hillbillies? Some of you are really young. So maybe you'll recognize this tune, but I wrote this morning so that we can lighten the mood before we get started. I'm a terrible singer, be forewarned. Let me tell you a little story about a man named Sonny. He lived back in Texas with Maryann, his honey. Things back in Texas started getting pretty blah, so he said, pack your bags, let's move to Florida. Land of lakes, that is. Lots of land, lots of lakes. They lived there for years very happily until they noticed it was growing exponentially. They saw the environment was being largely ignored, so they decided it was time to get people on, so they decided it was time to get people on board. Save our area, save the planet. Rosebud was started to educate the masses. Patel College started bringing out the classes. So when we all work together, so much it can be done. So everyone come to Rosebud and join in all the fun. So, all right. So, all right. Now we're lightened up. I can breathe. I've been worrying about this for days. So anyway, if we go to the first slide, we'll go back to the introductions. And you will see I graduated from University of Houston in 1979. And a little story, the last time I spoke to a college class was somewhere around 1980 or 1981 when I had started an office supply and they invited me back to talk to the class. I stuttered my whole way through it. I've never been asked back. This is the next time. So from like 1981 to 2023, that's the next time I've been asked to speak. Sonny's a lot more interesting. Sonny went to Riverside City College and Fresno State, where he played football and studied veterinary medicine prior to being drafted into professional football. So this is Sonny, first played for the Dallas Texans at the top in 1962, which were the AFL champions. Does anybody know who the Dallas Texans are now? Any football fans in here? You're a football fan? Do you know who the Dallas Texans are now? What team they turned into?
Houston Texans now?
Nope.
Dallas Cowboys?
Nope. Anybody else? Completely out of the state. They moved, what year did they move, Sonny? Shortly after that. That was when there was AFL and the NFL. They were separate.
63.
So they moved in 1963. Nope, but you're getting closer. It was they're a Kansas City. That's who they are now. The Chiefs. And then he went, yeah, exactly. Then he went to the Oakland Raiders, which is now in Las Vegas, right? And then next, and then he went to the Houston Oilers. Does anybody know who the Houston Oilers are now? That's it,
Yeah.
Tennessee Titans, yep. Okay, so we move on. Sonny was born on the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota. So this is a little bit about that. This is our indigenous connection through Sonny and through his relatives, and we've gotten really involved with them and learning about their culture and their struggles and everything that goes on. So basically, you can see that the Rosebud Reservation, women have a life expectancy of 52 years and men a life expectancy of 48 years. This is like one of the lowest life expectancies in the country and in a lot of countries, but we seem to forget about that as the United States never reflects on that. And we are working towards having my goal is at Rosebud to have an Indigenous education center that will help bring all this knowledge to everyone who comes. Okay. This is just an example of Sonny's great-great-grandfather. That's a picture of Chief Lance. We have a lot of history of his family, but I thought I'd just post one picture so you can get an idea of his heritage. All right, so I'm going to go. Okay, this is when we moved to Rosebud, from Texas. So this was the listing picture of Rosebud where we are now. A lot of you have been there, so you can see the difference. But the listing picture is showing from when it was a burnt-out orange grove. So you can go to the next one. This one is kind of crooked, so you can see this is this is in 1996, an aerial. So this is Rosebud right here, and that's what it looked like when we first purchased the property. This was a friend of ours flew over in 1996. So you can see what the area looks like. There's really nothing there. This is from the property appraisers in also like 1995. Rosebud is right up here. And again, you can see the area has a lot of pastures, a lot of greenland, and very few neighborhoods. This is as it's starting to grow. This is before they built houses where all the roads are going to be now. And then the next one, this one shows now what we're looking at. This is current. You can see all these neighborhoods, all the houses, all the roads, and a little bit left up there where we are. Kind of one of the reasons why we're working so hard to preserve it. And this is just for y'all that live out here or go on Bruceby Downs. We worked on Wharton High School back in the day, and our friend took these aerial photos. This is Bruceby Downs. There's nothing there. This was in 1996. I know all y'all drive on Bruceby Downs, and you know how much it is just wall-to-wall buildings. So that was the high school, yeah. And this is just showing you the Pasco County population where we are from when we moved there to from 298,000 about when we moved there to 591,000 now. And then the estimated population, the Florida population, how much is expected to grow. So what we're doing is super important to try to preserve what we can. And this is to place honor to the original peoples of this land, which in Pasco County is the Tocabega, who had disappeared by the early 1700s. The Tampa Bay area remained almost unoccupied for about 100 years, sorry, till the Creek Indians started moving down to escape. The Creek Indians met with other people. They started be calling the Seminoles, which means runaway or wild people, and the Miccosukee. So the Miccosukee and the Seminoles are the current occupants. The Tocabega is the ones that we know were here before, and I'm sure there was somebody before them, but the Spaniards recorded their meetings with the Tocabega. Okay, so let me tell the story of Rosebud and how it came to be. So some years back, probably around 2016, someone from Swiftmud came and asked if they could look at our property looking for an invasive plant. Do y'all know what Swiftmud is? The Southwest Florida Water Management District. So they said this was an invasive plant that grew up trees and would catch on fire and create a fire hazard. When it would dry out in the winter, it would create a fire hazard. So he has to go look at our property along where the lake is, which we could barely get to. Anyway, he walked back there. I followed him, as I always do when people come out. And he looked around, and we trudged our way through, and he goes, well, he said, I don't see what I'm looking for. I don't think you have any. He said, but you have some of the largest invasive plants I've ever seen in my life. And I looked at him because I was completely naive, and I said, really? Is that good? And he said, no, that's not good. You need to get rid of them. And I'm like, okay, how do I do that? He goes, well, how do I know what's invasive? And he said, you need to find somebody to help you. And I asked him, and he goes, I don't have time. And there started the whole thing. I wanted to get rid of invasive plants. I wanted to do the right thing, but I didn't know how to. How do I know what's an invasive plant? So I started a search to look for somebody who could help me find what was invasive and what was not. And on our search, we came across a gentleman who went to Patel College. He was working at a local nursery, And he got me a meeting with Dr. Craig Hegel, who is now at the USF Botanical Gardens, but he's an expert and author on native plants. So he agreed to come out and help. And we started by removing mass amounts, which you'll see in a little while, of invasive plants from the property and started replanting native plants in their place. So that was the start. And through that same gentleman from Patel, then we met TH. Oh, Joe, okay, but yeah, we met Joe first, but you're the one who wanted to do the biodigesters, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So anyway, that's how it all started. I wanted to eventually have a place that could be like the place to go and find out information about all kinds of sustainability, like the consumer's report of sustainability or something. What's good, what's bad, what works, what doesn't, what is even out there. Because that's the one thing that we still have a problem with as far as I'm concerned, is that there's no place for people to find out things. I am fully of the belief that there's a lot of people out there who care about the environment, but literally don't have enough knowledge to know that they're doing the wrong thing. I see it all the time, like with the butterflies and the planting the wrong kind of milkweed. You know, they want to do the right thing, but it's bringing the wrong result. And by the way, anybody can ask any questions at any time. This is a conversation more than a presentation. So if you have a question, just raise your hand and ask it. So, all right, so now we're going to go back to that, to the Rosebud. I want to go over why this logo of the Rosebud. So now you can go. So the first thing, again, as I told you, Sonny was born on the Rosebud Reservation, and we want to go back and help them. We want to figure out ways that they can be more self-sustaining on the land that they were given, which is almost, they have harshest winters, the hottest summers. They were removed from their traditional way of living and have been given canned food to survive. So, that's one of our ultimate goals, but we use the name Rosebud to honor Sonny and to honor his people. And that's from when we went to visit. That's the sign, welcome to the land of the Sujangu Lakota Ayote, the Burnt Thigh Nation, the Rosebud, South Dakota. And this was just a picture of the Badlands that we took when we were there. Okay, and then we have the tree. And the trees are super, super interesting. We just look at them as individual trees, but they actually speak to each other. And it's been proven that through underground methods that they communicate with each other. And so we think that the tree, like what's happening above the ground, there's way more happening below the ground. And that it's so important to our environment that we don't understand. But trees as a whole, come next week, and Buck here will talk about some trees some more, because they are such an integral part of our environment, but yet we're so quick to cut them down so that we can build a bunch of houses there. All right, so the turtle. Why the turtle? The natives call the North America Turtle Island. And it's interesting because their story, you can see this on the globe, and you can go to the next one. And this is the legend of Turtle Island. So they have a story about how Mother Earth protected people by putting them on the back of the tortoise. But it's really interesting because if you look at the North America from above, it really does resemble a turtle. And you're always like, how did they know? I don't know. They know a lot of things. They know that the Black Hills look just like a human heart. So how could you know that? But that's another reason. And also, if you go to the next one, the natives also believe the back of the turtle has the 13 moons and the 28 days, which equals 364 days plus the 1 day of rest. So they have known this and used it. They used a 13-month calendar, not a 12-month. And the back of the turtle there's a lot. The turtle is very meaningful to them in a lot of ways. And then also, we have gopher tortoises on our property, which are protected. They're a keystone species. We love them. And even though they're not a turtle, they really look like one. So, okay. And then the word continuum. So people are like, what did you do with continuum? I look at it as all going. So even like when I looked it up, the synonyms, continuity, continuance, perpetuity, and sequence, because we want this to be ongoing. Like the more we do, the more other people do. Again, if y'all are old enough to remember the commercials where it was about a hair product where she told two friends and she told two friends and so on and so on and so on, that's what we want to have happen here. But I got this was off the example from the internet. It's a small act of altruism which changes not only their worldview but the space-time continuum. What I say is the way we teach and enlighten each person who visits Rosebud creates a continuum of knowledge and empathy that has the potential to change many people's thoughts and actions for the betterment of the planet and therefore the betterment of us all. So this was something like when we went to the reservation and we were in the tribal office, they had a lot of things on the wall. And you'll see as they go through that I love sayings. I can't think of them, but I love when I see them. But this is really appropriate to me. Sometimes the right path is not the easiest one, similar to something that was said in Harry Potter. But this is the truth. It's much easier to go home and not think about what the crap that's going on around us, but we have to take the right path, which is not that easy. Another one that was from the wall, and most of y'all have probably heard this, but it's when the blood in your veins returns to the sea and the earth in your bones return to the ground, perhaps then you will remember that this land does not belong to you. It is you who belong to this land. And it's really appropriate. The natives did not have land ownership. They never, ever owned land. They felt like the land was everybody's and it was their job to take care of it. So the colonial way came in and changed all that. But unfortunately, with the ownership of land, we also seem to forget that it was our purpose to take care of the land for future generations. And again, we have some more. Chief Arvel, who actually keep in touch. I talked to them last night, and they're trying to come here in November, and they want to do an education thing, so I'll let everybody know. But Chief Arvel is a friend that works with us, and he is a spiritual leader of the Lakota Dakota, which in other terms is the Sioux Nation. He says, we warned one day you would not be able to control what you have created. That day is here. And this is also one of his sayings. Each of us has put it here in this time, in this place to decide the future of humankind. Do you think we're put here for something else? And that's it. Like, what are you here for? Okay, so, all right, so this was the beginning. So then we'll go back to when we decided to start. This was November 12th, 2015. That's what the property looked like. Between here and the lake, you can't see the lake. There's all kinds of invasive plants on that, which you can see in a close-up on the next one. You literally, when we walked through there with that guy, it was tripping and falling, and the Brazilian pepper was so bad, and it grows like this, and it's like, you know, it was crazy, but we didn't know any different. So this is some more taro up there, all invasive, camphor down here, invasive. All right, this is me with Caesar weed, and I know that y'all who've been out have pulled Caesar weed, but this is what's crazy. This is Caesar weed in my hand. You can't really see it. It's just when it grows small. This is Caesar weed in my other hand. If you let it go, that's what you get. You get trees. These were brought here as an ornamental plant because once or twice a year, they have these cute little flowers, which then turn into something that's like a sand spur. And everybody who's ever walked in the woods has gotten these things stuck all over them. But they're invasive. Go ahead. And then this Brazilian pepper, this is the base of the Brazilian pepper. That's how much we pulled out from under the ground of the Brazilian pepper, which also grows everywhere. And you'll see them popping up everywhere. And if you get them when they're little, they'll come right out of the ground. You let them go, they turn into this nightmare. We had to bring big equipment out to dig it out because if you cut it off at ground level, it just keeps growing. This is just an example of a bunch of native plants we brought to plant, and here's after we cleared out a bunch of what you saw earlier, getting ready to plant. Okay, and then after we met TH, Dr. Thomas Culhane, he told us about he told us about the biodigesters. So we went and got the molds and we started building the biodigesters. This is those of you who've been out there and seen El Dragon, or the dragon as we talk about, this is the beginning of that. That's the molds laying out. We put it up. I think I might have some of these backwards, but you can go, yeah, this is backwards. But you can see that's OJ at the top. He was our resident bull. He's the one who started all these with his manure. But this is when we built the pad for El Dragon. And then, like I said, a little bit backwards, but there's the El Dragon and there's the wishing well. And this is us going. And then you go on to the next and you'll see there's El Dragon. And now, I took this the other day, and the next one is the wishing well. And then there's one in the ground over here, but I didn't take the picture because it's covered with Biden. And then this is just a walk like around. So I want to show you some things about Rosebud. I'm not an expert at anything. Like what I do is bring people out that are experts or that have passions. It's like Rosebud, I think, is unique in the way that it doesn't concentrate on any one thing. Like you'll meet people like Mike who came last week and talked about solar. He did our solar and he's an expert. And I look to those experts to do what we need to do because I can't learn all that stuff. And then TH, he's an expert in biodigesters and a lot of other things, but he's not an expert in native plants or he's not an expert. You know, there's a lot of different things we have going on. I don't think that there's, like, of all the places I've visited, they have specialties, which is great, but we're like everything. And so I'm going to just take you a little walk through, and I know I forgot a bunch of stuff, but if you go back one, you'll see that's the food forest is part of the food forest. This is the beginning of the native trail. This is down the native trail. There's bat houses, which are all occupied. I had video of it, but I couldn't get it to download. And a educational sign, which we want to have more of everywhere. This is just talking about alligators and snakes, so we can scare everybody to stay on the path. Does anybody know what this is? Besides a bird. Nope, it is a chimney swift. So we have, if you see back there, that's our house, and we have chimney swifts that come live in our chimney every year. They're migratory birds, and they're wonderful. They eat mosquitoes and bugs out of the air. They swoop, they're beautiful, and they make their nest in chimneys, in old original chimneys, because they make their nest on the side. So it can't be smooth. It has to have like the mortar from their original chimneys or a tree, because their original habitat was hollow trees. And then those started going away, so they started using chimneys. Well, those are going away because people are not making original chimneys anymore. They're gas, or they have like pipes, or they cover the top. So these are going down in numbers because of their habitat loss. And but they migrate every year, I don't know, like to South America or something, a long ways. And they come back to the same place every year. So we built some additional towers in the hopes of getting them to expand their numbers. It took a long time, and I think it's because the towers are so much shorter than the chimney. But finally, this one here, the outside one, now has some in that have come to roost in there. So we're hoping to fill it all up. But that's one of the things that I have in my learning process is to learn, is to like see something, ask questions about it, and then see if there's anything I can do. And that's, you know, for everybody, it's like you don't have to be an expert in anything, but you know, if you see something and you're able to learn a little bit about it and tell other people, so maybe they care too, or maybe somebody else can find something that can help, that would be great. But I love these birds. They come every year, and I think they're just about leaving now. I saw them the other day, but haven't heard them since. So, okay, and solar. Those are our solar, the roof mount, the ground mount, and the pole mount. And you saw that last week with Mike. And there's TH's tortoise, is gopher tortoise, which is all recycled materials. He uses plastics. He uses the glass. We make the sand from the glass. And he'll have to tell you what else is in it. But I wanted to take a picture of one of that projects. This was a project here that has the solar golf carts that some Patel students put together, some old golf carts and some old solar panels, and now we don't ever plug it in, we just leave it in the sun. This is Lake Rosebud, which we worked really hard to save from that development. You'll see more of this. I love this lake, and I just went out to take some pictures to get ready for this. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll take these. Okay. We have goats, we have ducks, we have chickens. This is up here is an example of our composting toilet, which I've seen other composting toilets. I haven't been around the world, but this is the best one I've ever seen. So please come out and leave a deposit. And this is our demonstration bee house and beehive. This is a close-up of the beehive, so you can go inside that and look inside a plexiglass and see the bees at work. This is our classroom, which some Patel students painted this for the Florida Wildlife Corridor. They did an amazing job. Here's some greenhouses and the babies. So this area here, we raise mangoes and avocado from seed. And then when it gets to a certain size, we have a fellow who grafts from our bearing trees. So if you, let's just say you raise an avocado from seed, it takes like 8 to 12 years before you get fruit. But if you graft a piece from a tree that already is bearing fruit, you'll have it the next season. So you can get it in like 2 years as opposed to 10 years. Same thing with mangoes. It's very much sustainably minded. So if you're trying to get people to grow their own fruit, you don't want them to have to wait, till they've sold the house and left. This is the hoop house. Just some things we have. The raised beds inside. We have the aquaponics and the hydroponics, and this one here on the top, this flat system we use to propagate plants. So we take cuttings, put them in, root them, and then replant them. This is our glass crusher, just showing you this is what the machine looks like, and this is what we get when we put glass in. Just sand, just pure sand. So he's using that on his project. We're going to use it to make on the top of our cactus garden, put it in our soil. Glass is a wonderful, easily recycled product that we aren't recycling, and it's ridiculous. And then this is the pasture with our trees. And like I said, next week you'll learn all about this from Buck, but he's doing an arboretum out in the one pasture. The other pasture is like an old growth trees that we're going to leave as it is. Encourage animals to live there and take protection there and give them a place to go. And this is one of my passions that I tell people all the time. You'll see these trees when they die. We snag them, we cut them off at the top, so that's for safety purposes, but we like to leave as much of the dead tree as possible, because a tree, there's a saying, I saw this the other day, it's like that, as soon as a tree starts to die, it starts a whole new world of giving. So a tree, from the time it is hatched, the time it comes out of the ground, to the last bit of it, which is this one here, is falling on the ground and is breaking apart, and everything is going back into the soil. It never quits giving. So, but we cut down the trees. We try to get rid of the roots. We try to get rid of everything and pretend like that tree was never there. And we lose out on an awful lot of the nexus of the world giving back, because nature gives back. Nature, nothing goes to waste in nature. Again, some more pretty things. Every year at the wintertime, we put up our teepees. Val is my partner in that. It's not easy, but we get it done. And then this was from the other night. I just thought it was an amazing picture. And again, this is Lake Rosebud from the other night. Some other things that we have out there that we're happy, every time we see nature on our property. So we have the barred owl, and we have the wood stork. The wood stork is an endangered species. Just have some random, like the butterfly. I think that's a queen. I don't know, it might be. And a chrysalis and a long-tailed zebra. They're just random pictures. There's a yellow rat snake, which are super beneficial, and I love them. And then these are our chickens, along with a local sandhill crane that comes to visit. That was a picture I took, like, which one of these is not like the other type of pictures. Then we have some different fruits, the papaya, this is the, I can't remember the name of it, the one you don't like, katuk. The katuk. And then this is a part of the garden where you have the sweet potatoes. This is a lemongrass, and then we have beans, and we have some underground, the arrowroot. Yeah, can't think. And then go ahead. The next one is star fruit, the pineapple, the banana, and that's the shampoo ginger. And I think this is no, I think that's the fruit for the flower for the star fruit. And that's a Jamaican cherry or strawberry tree, as they call it in Jamaica. And Val, is that just a fig? All right, so this was something I put in here to see if anybody knew what that plant was. Anybody? Any guesses? You got it. Okay, next one. That turns to that. So everybody knows what loofah is, right? So that's a natural loofah. So I'm just encouraging everybody to use a natural loofah, because the synthetic ones, they're just going to sit in that landfill or whatever for ever and ever, where this will just, this is natural. This is the way we should all be thinking every time we buy something. And then here's some things. As I go through this and like back to the indigenous, I want people to understand how they play a role in our environment. I think that we have lost our connection to nature. Our children aren't taught anything. I'm really happy that y'all are here because I feel like there's a reason that y'all are here, and you have a big head start on us because, we always loved nature, but again, I didn't know all this stuff until, 10 years ago. Y'all are young. You've got a whole life ahead of you to do some good. But Russell Means was an amazing, he spoke in front of Congress. He did a lot for Native rights, but what he says is, before I was 6 years old, my grandparents and my mother had taught me that if all the green things that grow were taken from the earth, there could be no life. If all the four-legged creatures were taken from the earth, there could be no life. If all the winged creatures were taken from the earth, there could be no life. If all our relatives who crawl and swim and live within the earth were taken away, there could be no life. But if all the human beings were taken away, life on earth would flourish. That is how insignificant we are. And I know that we have some people who say that we've made such a mess of it, we can't all go away because we have some work to do to fix it. But the reality is, I keep telling people, we are the least significant being on this planet. We don't support anything, unless you go to Africa every once in a while, somebody gets eaten, but but that's one of the things that sometimes people have a hard time grasping, that we are not the top, we're kind of the bottom, because we don't think about what's in the ground, the microbes and all those things that we need in order to exist. Okay. And a lot of things that you learn as as I've opened up and people have met people and learned things, and that's what Rosebud is about, to continue to learn things. But this is one of the biggest issues that we have as a society, a colonial society, as we say, is the idea of the English elite who used to have these lawns that showed how rich they were because it took so many servants to be able to keep them looking like that. And supposedly they came, the English came here, and my relatives came back here to get away from that, but then we tried to emulate that, and we still do today, to very much detriment. So I think this is pretty interesting. The American lawn is one of the greatest mass brainwashings of all time. How we all voluntarily signed up to spend untold hours growing and cutting a non-native monoculture of green, which we lace with poisons to kill plants and insects, never ceases to amaze. That's kind of what we do. Everybody's got to mow the lawn, and we constantly are. Oh, I got to do something to kill these weeds. The weeds that are putting nitrogen in the soil, they kill them, and then they got to go back and buy synthetic nitrogen to go back and put on the lawn so their lawn will grow. Just leave this thing alone. Just mow it. It looks just like a lawn. That's what. All right. Another thing that I've learned, never really thought about, but I see it all the time on the next door app. Oh, look at my lights. I got these lights. Look how great my house looks at night. We don't pay any attention to the fact that night's supposed to be dark. I was yesterday at a turtle rescue, a sea turtle rescue, and they talked about what a problem it is that people leave their lights on during hatching season, and the hatchlings go the wrong way towards the light instead of going towards the moon that's reflecting over the water. So, only 1 out of 1,000 hatchlings ever makes it to adulthood. And part of it is that half of them are going the wrong way because people won't turn off their lights. We did the same thing. We have the migrations going on, and these birds are getting lost. They're going the wrong way. They use lights as a direction, and they always have. And we don't know that. I didn't know that. So these are all things that we want to get that word out. And of course, we know about plastics. That just goes without saying. But again, the plastic bags from the grocery store, they say the average American family takes home almost 1,500 plastic shopping bags a year. I can't tell you how many times I've told people, use reusable bags. Once you start doing it, you will love it. Oh, I need those plastic bags. I use them for my dog poop, and I use them for garbage. I'm like, I haven't asked for a plastic bag from the grocery store, and I don't know how long, but I still have a drawer full of them at home. You're always going to get something in plastic bags. Please don't use that as an excuse. So I'm always telling people, the reusable bags. If we all just got, this is just one small thing, you know, it's like, what can I do? If everybody in town said, I'm not using plastic bags anymore, what a difference that would make. It would make a huge, it would start making a difference. This is something else from the natives, which we don't think about in our culture, but they do, that the ground on which we stand is sacred ground. It's the dust and blood of our ancestors. Just like we always get upset if somebody desecrates the cemetery, we're desecrating the cemetery of those who went before us all the time. We want to put an oil pipeline through sacred grounds. Oh, it's the good of the people. You know, we have got to start listening to everybody. Like, we're all the same. You know, they should have the same rights. If we wanted to go put it through your grandparents' cemetery, I think y'all are all going to get upset about that, right? Why shouldn't they? Okay, another one. Only when the last tree has died and the last river has been poisoned and the last fish has been caught will we realize we cannot eat money. We can't drink it either. We got to do something because our water situation is getting bad. So, and head on to the next because I don't know what it is. Okay, another one. The old Lakota was wise. He knew that man's heart away from nature becomes hard. He knew that a lack of respect for growing living things soon led to a lack of respect for humans too. Kind of think we're there. We don't care about, we can't even have a conversation with people without jumping down their throat. But in the same regard, we don't seem to care what we're doing to our environment either. I think that this is something that the natives still hold true. The traditionals, I'm not going to say just because you have native DNA means that you're a native. It's a culture, and if you're in the culture, you believe this and you know it to be true. And this is a shaman who basically said, and this I've heard this before, like people ask, what do we do to heal the earth? He says, we don't have to heal the earth. We just have to stop making her sick. And, you know, so we just need to stop what we're doing. Mother Earth in Lakota is Unchimaka, which is grandmother Earth, which means they always said that the earth is here to take care of us. Mother Earth takes care of us, and we need to take care of her. One other thing, I know Val's probably going, why didn't you bring this up? And because I forgot to put it in there, but Matakoasin is a saying in the Lakota, which means we're all relatives or we're all related. And that doesn't mean just us as human beings. That means every living organism on this planet, we're related. Now that we know that about DNA, that's the truth. They've been saying that for thousands of years. We now have DNA, which proves it to be true, which means that anything that we do that affects one, whether it be a person, whether it be a plant, whether it be like the roots of a tree, it affects us all. So we really have to think through what we're doing as we move forward with development and taking care of the earth. And basically, now's the time for y'all. You don't have to like be an expert in anything. Please come to Rosebud and get that feeling that you need to tell people, because I think that that's the key. I think the biggest key is that not everybody has to go out there and work outside, but they should, because it will make them feel better. But everybody needs to care, and everybody needs to know how to care. And we are an example of, we thought we cared. We love nature, but we had no idea what damage our culture was doing to nature until we started this project. And I learned something new all the time. This is some sayings, like I said, I like. Because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones that do. And I believe that. If you don't think you can do it, so you don't try, you're not going to do it. Also, actions prove who someone is. Words just prove who they pretend to be. And that's yes and no. Use your words to tell other people. That's an action. But if you're just blowing smoke, then you're not doing anybody any good. And then this is me. I saw this a while back, and I said, I'm going to save that for this, because I felt like this is me. This is a true joy in life, being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one. Being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it what I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle to me. It is a sort of splendid torch which I have got hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it off to future generations. So I challenge you all to stop being a selfish little clod and look and see what's happening and see if there's something that you can do. You know, it's like there's and educate yourself and then spread that education to other people. We are not getting anything in schools. The kids are not getting anything in schools now. We don't even get those other, and now you know. There used to be on TV all the time, which of course you had to not have DVRs to be able to fast forward through the commercials, but they used to always have these public service announcements that would say, an average family uses 1,500 plastic bags a year. You know, if you reduce that, you can save this much, da 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 da. And now you know. They used to have those. They don't have those anymore. How do we know? How do we teach people? So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give people a place to come and do experimentation. We have a gentleman that's Buck's friend that is making something out of water, creating electricity. Yeah, what is it?
Hydroelectric battery.
A hydroelectric battery. That's really cool. Because we gave him an opportunity in a space, and he came out and he got motivated. I could never do that, and I'm not asking you to have to do that, but I'm saying to each and every one of you, what got you involved in sustainability? What made you care enough to go to this school? And what can you do to make the world a better place, or to make the world start to advance and make the changes that we need to make? Like I said at the beginning, I fully believe that there's a lot of people who care out there. They just don't know enough to make changes, because I didn't. And like I said, I learn like all the time. I'm like, oh my God, I wish I'd known this when I was your age. So I don't even know what time it is. Oh, my glasses. Okay. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Ask Sonny about football. Or about the Native Americans, or what we're doing, or anything? Yes, sir.
I would love for them to know what I know about your history as Bishop Construction Company and how that affected your interaction with the developers who wanted to tear the 48 acres around you and turn it into cookie cutter homes, and why you as a development construction company resisted that. I don't think they understand what your background is and how you make your money from an activity that seems antithetical to what
Right.
you're doing at Rosebud, and how you square that circle and the message you have for others in Florida.
Right. So what we have and the way we've made our living is through a construction company, Irvin Bishop Construction. We've had that since we moved to Florida. And it's a concrete and masonry subcontractor. So we don't do homes, but we do commercial. But yes, he's right. It's like people will say, I don't understand how you're fighting a development. You're a construction company. I don't understand how you support that person. You're a construction company. I'm like, well, I work as a construction company, but that doesn't mean that construction companies have to be bad. So construction is going to happen. We have to, like, there's more people. We have to have places for them. It has to be bad, but it doesn't have to be the way that these developers just want to make as much money as possible. And they don't. One of the things I learned when I very first started working with academia, I'm not an I did not like school. I'm not good at school. I respect everybody. Everybody's different and there's a place for everybody. But one thing I learned being a business person when I started listening to some of the conversations from the sustainability people versus the business people is they're so far apart that never the twain shall meet. So you have these people over here that they just want to make as much money as possible. In fact, when we talked to them, they basically said to us, we're working for our shareholders. We do not care about the stakeholders of this land. We don't care. We're going to build it. We're going to make as much money and we're going to leave. That's what they want. Then you have the sustainability people who want the best case scenario for the environment. We just like, let's put one house per 10 acres. Let's, everybody has to be on solar and everybody has to be here. Well, that's not feasible because they need to make money. So the key is to come here. How can we get these people to make to give up a little bit and these people to give up a little bit and find that happy medium? Because we're never going to have what we envision as our utopia of, at least not in my lifetime, and not when you have this many people moving in. So we have to figure out ways. That's something Buck is working on. He works within the community, and he's working on ways to determine, and I don't want to tell too much, but about how can we get the developers to preserve trees and give the developers credits for something so that they do something good environmentally, but they can still make money. Because you cannot tell somebody who's building something that you have to do it this way and have them lose money. It's never going to work. But we have to get to the point where it's like, hey, you can't make as much, you can't fund your next yacht off this, this project. You need to give something up. We need to make the powers that be the ones who govern us to hold them to some standard. I just argued this point the other day with somebody, because in Pasco County, they did all these meetings. I went to all these different meetings where they asked the people what they wanted. And they came back and they said, overwhelmingly, the people of Pasco County don't want to have these small lots, these 40-foot lots. And then the one planning guy says, well, everybody says this, but as soon as they build 40-foot lots, they snatch them up. And I wrote in, I'm like going, who's snatching them up? Just because people are moving from somewhere else here to buy 40-foot lots doesn't mean that that's what we should do. We should build something that the people who live here are happy with, and somebody will buy it. And if they want a 40-foot wide lot, go somewhere else. It's like we are not building for people who don't live here. We've got to start paying attention to the people who are already here. And we got to start paying attention to the fact that when you take down a bunch of 200-year-old trees, when's the next time you plant a tree there? First of all, you'll never replace it because they're tearing it down to build around it. Then they tell them to put an oak in the yard. It's about the size of this. How long do you think that oak's going to be able to stay in that little spot? You can't replace them. We're taking down things that are irreplaceable. Like the natives say, it takes 15 minutes to cut down a tree and 500 years to grow it back. So these are things that we have to get the community to understand so that maybe they can start making demands of the people that are making the decisions. We can't keep saying, well, what can I do? What can I do? What can one person do? Well, yeah, one person, read about John Francis. He's a friend of ours, and somebody comes here. He's the planet walker. TH works with him on a project, but he saw an oil spill in the 70s, and he walked for 22 years. He didn't use any gasoline-powered anything for 22 years, and then he didn't talk for 17 years. And when you hear a story about how that worked, I mean, it's incredible. He ended up getting his PhD while he was walking, while he wasn't talking, and worked for the Coast Guard to write the laws on oil spills and how to handle oil spills. And now he goes and talks everywhere. He's making a huge difference. And he said the reason he quit talking is because people keep asking him, why do you think that what you're doing is going to make a difference? One person can't make a difference. So he said he quit arguing with people, he just quit talking. Anything else? Anyone?
You mentioned that one of the big concerns is water.
Mm-hmm.
When you talked about it earlier. What's your with all the development that you've seen? What's the primary issue that you're seeing with the water? Because that's what we're concerned with as well.
Well, our aquifer has gone down considerably. In fact, the biggest drought in recent history, somebody told me it had gotten down to a certain level after 2 years, and we got down to that same level since last year. We're moving so many people in. We're using so much water. Like Zephyr Hills is the only community I know that actually put a moratorium because they understand that they're having a water issue. Pasco County is working on toilet to tap, so they're trying to take our sewage water and treat it enough to be able to put it back into the houses as your tap water. The Hillsborough County is working more on the desalination, which I understand is difficult, expensive, and I don't know all the problems, but I understand that there is. But it's like we're just using it at like, but keep in mind too, anybody ever told anybody to slow down with the water? Like, we don't. And I said forever, and TH is one of the ones that brought this to mind some time back, and I'm like, yeah, of course it's been a long time. We should have done this a long time ago, but why are we flushing our toilets with potable water? Why are we Why isn't the gray water going back into the toilets to save the fresh water for other uses? There's a native girl, I saw this a couple years ago. I went to Cincinnati or something, and she did a report on the water that Nestle's pumping out of the ground, and it's astronomical. And there's another problem. Why are we letting a private corporation benefit financially from our water? Like, they're paying virtually nothing, and they're pumping billions of gallons of water out of our aquifer to put in a plastic bottle and put it on the shelf. That's our water. And they're making a fortune, and they're paying nothing for it. It's like there's so many issues that we have, that when the love of money is overwhelming what's best for all of us. It's not just the environment, it's all of us, because like I said, we're all related. If we don't have, the natives have been fighting for water rights forever, and they'll say, they have shirts, I have shirts that say, you think we're fighting just for us? We're fighting for everybody. We're being thrown in jail all the time for everybody because we're trying to protect our water.
Remember the first Hurricane Irma, when everybody's taking all the water off the shelves in every Walmart? And
Yeah.
There's no water, and you were like, we'll just put out rainwater barrels
Yeah.
in the rain. So what is everybody panicking about?
I mean, like, what are
It's
you
great.
doing? It's like, I grew up when we didn't have plastic water bottles. A hurricane was coming, we're like, fill up some pots, fill up some buckets to flush the toilet, put the buckets to catch the rainwater to flush the toilets if you need to, whatever. It's like, it's the water, the plastic water bottles is, I'm like, I'm one of those people who said, who's going to buy water? Like, I should have bought some stock in that thing, right?
I grew up in the country, and most of the roofs were tin. And every time you had a rain, you catch the water and put it in barrels, and that's what you use for cooking and bathing, and we live strictly off Mother Nature.
In this state, there's an article I read the other day, and of course we all know that, have lived here a long time, that Florida is sitting on the lime rock, the limestone. So when the water gets really low underneath it, the aquifer, here's your lime rock, which is not that strong, and the water goes down and down and down, and you have that big gap. And then if you get a big rain, like we did in 2017, and a big rain comes and it soaks into the surface soil, and the weight is because the way it works, it trickles down, it filters and filters on down in, but you get so much, and there's such a gap here that it collapses and it becomes a sinkhole. And I could have brought that pictures for you, because we had this happen to our house in 2017, where the two houses across the street literally fell into the sinkhole. So if you look online, 2007, I think it was July 17th or 2017. Look online, Land O'Lakes sinkhole, and you will see what happens when you have that much water that's missing underneath, and then the weight just collapses it. And I feel like that this is going to happen more and more if our water levels are continuing with this gap. They're never filling back up. There's so many homes being built and so much water being used. And everybody's like, well, we're using gray water for the lawns, but why are we freaking watering the lawns? Put native grasses, let native plants grow out there and just mow it. When you drive by, it looks the same. It's still green. And that's what native plants are. You want to know why native plants? Because they don't require the watering. They're adapted to this environment. So once they are established, you never have to water them unless it's an extreme drought. But if you put in, I don't know, your non-native stuff, you're out there like watering like every day. And it's fine. Like, we water some for our stuff that's our fruiting stuff. If it's not fruiting, we don't. But we water the fruiting stuff, but we don't need to water stuff, the grass. It's still have green grass, it's like, because if you look close, it's ground cover. It's native ground cover. Yes, sir.
Formed the Hail No Citizens Coalition for Responsible Development to fight the developers. You made week after week meetings at your classroom of community, got 150 people strong, went to the Planning Commission. You suggested to developers permeable pavement, rainwater collection, green roofs, all the different things. They'd never heard of it, had they? Suggesting that somewhere there's a disconnect in sustainability education for the businesses that could have been an asset to the land. I'm wondering now, you're in ELAM. you now are a member of an advisory organization as a result of this. How is that transformation affecting the people that you interact with?
Well, ELAMP doesn't really have anything to do with that same what you're talking about, because ELAMP is just preserving wetlands and areas from development or from being used and filled in and from development and that sort of thing. But I will say that, yes, you're right about that. And this still happens because the other day there's a new development and one commissioner said, oh, did you see this new development we have? They're going to have a farm in front. And I said, yeah, I did see that. I said, but here's the problem. I said, you're putting a farm in front and houses in the back still have our HOA rules. So you still have to have your grass and all the same stuff in the back. And these people have to pay to use the farm up front. Why don't you just let them farm in their yards? Instead of, it's like, so they do things that, and she's bragging to me about this. Like, did you see what we're doing? Because they're so disconnected, they think that's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing necessarily, but they think it's the, do what? Hey, so why is it? Oh, the bees. Oh yeah, they're gonna have bees.
And
And
have pesticides in the HOA.
right. I forgot about the bees. They're putting bees up there. But it's like, this is the disconnect. Because that's what I'm saying, this is a disconnect across the board. People think they're doing something good when in fact it's not so good, or maybe it might even be bad. And this is the lack of education, the lack from the little guys on up. And I'm not condemning people. That was me. I didn't know this stuff, but now that I know it, the more I know, the more I want to know, and the more upset I get. And the more I want other people to know. So that's what Rosebud is. That's what y'all need to be. So when you learn things here, like I always ask students when they come out, what made you want to be here where you are now? Like what touched your heart and said, I want to do that. And then I want you to come out and make a sign and tell us all about it so other people can be touched that same way. Yes, sir.
So I'm going to have to